right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my second presentation today. Why do most flight sim businesses fail? And I am very excited about this because I want to give the community the behind-the-scenes look of what it really takes to create your favorite add-ons. And I really hope that what I'll create is just more appreciation by the community to the developers and what we try to do to deliver the best thing we can for you. What am I going to talk about? What's it like to be a developer? What is the day-to-day work like? What does it take to really finish your project? I'll talk about what do you do to actually survive after you've finished, after you've released your first project. And I'll also talk about who can help to make things better. So first of all, why should you even care what I have to say? So I just want to introduce myself. So my name is Marko. I'm the founder of Xcrafts. Xcrafts was founded in 2013. We are the leaders in Embraer simulation across the market, and we have released 12 products to date. Currently, our fleet comprises of the free E-Jets, the ERJ Family, and E-Jets Family 2.0. And what I'm also doing is I'm trying to educate the community, just like through this talk today. I have many different ways of just interacting and explaining the behind the scenes of the flight sim development. So I'm the writer of the Not a newsletter, where we've reached 32,000 subscribers already, which makes me very proud. I wrote an explained ebook. I created Explain Index, which in collaboration with Navigraph, which is a list of all active Explain add-ons, no matter if they're free or payware or which store they come from. You can always find all the active Explain add-ons on our website. I also write lots of how-to guides and tutorials, and we also have our weekly real-world flight plans, which are hand-picked. So every Friday, our subscribers get a real Embraer flight into their inbox. So what is it like to be a flight sim developer? For me personally, it is the best job in the world. I had other jobs. I came back to flight sim because I absolutely love it. It's literally like playing with Lego. And it can be really rewarding when you meet people here today who tell you how much they enjoy your product, and it means a lot. On the other hand, it is very complicated and technical work. It takes years to finish a project, and your friends and family have absolutely no idea what your actual job is. So, you know, when someone comes to you and say, hey, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I make airplanes for flight simulators. And they're like, oh, cool. And they walk away, and I'm like, this is the coolest job in the world. Why don't you ask me one more question? Like, I want to talk about it. Nobody asks. So there's definitely a downside. Anyway, I'm happy to be here today when people do ask, so that's cool. So a day in the life of a flight sim developer, it depends who you are on the team. If you are a coder, a developer, you are probably buried in code all day long. There's endless testing, endless reloading of the sim. Think of every time you start up the sim, developers have to do that all the time. And it's really annoying sometimes. And you also spend a lot of time just fixing bugs, which is not easy because it doesn't necessarily get you closer to your desired result, but it needs to be done, of course. And then you'll probably also do some customer support. Now, a day in life of me looks a bit different. My ideal day would be to get up at 6 in the morning. I'm not going to check my emails or my phone. I'm just going to go straight into modeling, texturing, creating avionics. I just love that. That's the part where I feel like I'm playing with Lego. And I can do it till 10 p.m. and I just want to sleep and repeat. The reality, unfortunately, is that if you love baking and you open a bakery, you're probably not going to end up baking a lot because you need to run the bakery. So my real day looks like 10% playing with Lego, 90% managing the team, managing beta testers, preparing releases, communication, email support, loads of other things. So I really love those 10% when I get a chance to do that. So imagine you're starting a new project as a new flight sim business and you want to start. So what do you need? You need to find a team. What does your ideal member have to do? Three things. First of all, he needs to have passion for flight simulation and for what they're doing, because working on these projects can take years. And unless you're really passionate about it, they're not going to get through it. So passion, number one. You need to find someone with very niche skills, because I can't just hire any developer off the street. I need someone who understands the flight sim SDK, who understands airplanes, who understands all the little nuances and specific languages. So you need someone with very, very specific skills. And the third thing is, it needs to be a nice human being, which I have learned the hard way sometimes. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as you'd think to find someone who's just a really nice and friendly person. So as you can see, our pool of potential candidates is not very big. So who is the best team candidate? A unicorn. You are literally looking for unicorns, for people who have all these three things. So game over number one for lots of businesses. They just didn't find their unicorns. I was very lucky to find my unicorns. One of my unicorns is sitting in the audience, Steve Wilson. If you could raise your hand, Steve. Steve is right there. Can we please have a big round of applause for Steve, for my unicorn? He has been with me for 8 years, and I'm very happy. So, all right, you have found your unicorn. What's next? The answer to that is in the answer to this question. How do you physically, as a human being, eat an elephant? Does anybody know? There is one right answer. Exactly. One bite at a time. All right? Creating an airplane, by the way, we create airplanes, so my take on this is from the airplane creating point of view. We don't create sceneries or other things, but like it's all the same. All these projects are massive. You have to split them into tiniest little pieces and just take on them one bit at a time. So what do you actually have to do on a day-by-day basis? So it's quite a lot of things, and I thought, okay, how could I possibly show what you have to do in a nice and creative way? So let's have a look. You can try reading them. You're not going to be able to read it all. And don't worry, you don't have to read them all. The point is, there are many, 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 many different steps, much more steps, a lot more than what any of a normal user of a flight sim would ever imagine. So I just thought, okay, what does it really feel like? How can I convey the feeling of, okay, working all these things, and then you go into the sim and you load it for the first time? Feels about like this. You load it and it crashes, pretty much. So yeah, that is the story of our life. Anyway, moving on. So what are the usual traps for flight sim businesses in general? First, we get into the phase before your first big release. Very tiny teams versus massive expectations. It's really complicated. So real airplanes are developed and built by hundreds or thousands of engineers with millions in funding, whereas flight sim developers are microscopic teams with zero in funding most of the time. So that is a very big challenge. Airplanes are not microwaves. They are very complicated. So it really takes a lot of effort to create all these airliners and other add-ons. We often have to solve very similar problems to the real engineers, but we have to find our own solutions. We can never get code from someone and just put it in the sim and it just works. Everything has to be done from scratch. So this is a picture of one of our E-jets. If you're a flight sim user, next time you go flying your favorite airplane, the next button you click on, just think, okay, every button has hundreds of hours of work behind it. It really is complicated. So it's like a work of art when you load any airplane in the sim, I think. And as I said, I'm here just to explain. It's not easy, but we all love it. Icebergs everywhere. What I mean by that is when you know there is a feature that you want to develop, you kind of have a mental idea, okay, this is probably going to take me this many days or this many months, this many hours or days to develop. But then you start digging into it, and then you realize, okay, so if we make it work like this, okay, what if we have to connect it to a piece of hardware? Oh, okay, then we have to add this as well. And then we also need to add this feature and that feature. And you realize very quickly that what you thought is a matter of a day's worth of development can take a week or weeks. And that is tricky to plan ahead. Also, you have a huge upfront cost. So as I said, usually you start with zero in funding initially, which is just really hard to bridge. So you get paid, hopefully, at the end, if you get there. So that's definitely a big challenge. You're 90% done finally. You only have 90% still to go. So that is something called project creep, where you are in your head thinking, OK, how close am I to the release? And you think you're really close. And that is a total illusion, because then you send it to the beta testers. They fly it in this area of the world or under these conditions with this hardware. Suddenly, bugs keep popping up, and it snowballs. My favorite question: do you have a release date? No. I really wish I knew when we're going to release our airplanes, but because of all these icebergs and project creeps, it's very challenging to know in advance. So of course, the answer is as soon as possible, but it's just not feasible to say, okay, we'll have a deadline, because if you do that, then you release something that's incomplete, which is a problem, of course. So next, game over. Some companies simply run out of money or energy or out of the house. That's it. All right, let's imagine that we are past that. You finally see the end of the tunnel, the little light there, which is the release. What could possibly go wrong? You release way too early, when it's not ready yet. Of course, everybody knows there are a lot of different stories about certain products, but I'm not going to talk about that. Essentially, every product is released before it's ready, because ready is also very subjective. But the problem is that it's often not really a choice to release, because if you've worked on something for 3 years and you really want to finish it, but you know that unless you release now, you're just going to go bankrupt, or you're just not going to be able to finish it at all. You just have to release it. So yeah, waiting for the perfect moment can really kill your project. And once you release, also that massive influx of feedback can definitely help you move a lot much further. And it's really important to get that feedback from a much bigger pool of people. All right, so you made it to the finish line. Finally, after years of work, you're there. What should you do? You really need to brace yourself, because releasing a massive product to the flight sim community is not a walk in the park. So when we were releasing our first big E-Jets, the ERJ Family in 2023, I was really looking forward to the finish line. I could not wait. I was expecting massive sense of relief. The reality is that the community is really ruthless. So people will easily forget about all the hundreds of features you've already developed and that work well. And the few, it's not always few, but any of the bugs that you have will be inflated so much. And honestly, all of that feedback and a lot of negative feedback, not always fair, has a real effect on your mental health. So I was expecting a relief. I got depressed, which wasn't great. All right. And plus, which is really great, suddenly completely unexpected bugs keep showing up, and then people get crashes to desktop that you've never experienced before, even though you've been testing for 8 months with a massive group of beta testers. And then you feel bad. You don't want your customers to experience these crashes. But that's just the reality of it. All right, so now you've released your product finally, and we are getting to phase 3 after the release. Can you run a business profitably? It's not just about finishing your first product. It's about keeping running the business. Here, I'd like to talk about something that's quite getting more and more challenging these days, which is that the customers usually pay one time, but many of them have expectations for updates for years and years and years to come, which is just very difficult to do from a simple math perspective. Also, it's not easy to develop the right product, because what if you spend 3 years working on something that the community just doesn't need or want? Any airliner that's, I mean, everyone will want a 737 and an A320. So for everybody else, it might take as much time and effort to develop a product, but the pool of people who are interested is much smaller. So you need to spend extra effort to convince them, like, look, there are these other really cool airplanes that you could be flying. Check them out. At this point, I'd like to stop for a second. I really love my job. I'm not here to bitch, okay? I absolutely love my job. I do not want to change it. And I just think it's super cool. So yeah, my whole point of this presentation is for the community to understand all the things that really we have to deal with to deliver the products that you then use. This one is an interesting one. So over the last 10 years that I've been in the business, the quality of add-ons is really, really skyrocketed. However, the price has kind of stayed the same, especially when we think of inflation. But we are expected to deliver much more in our add-ons. So that is definitely something that is quite hard to do. And this is something we discussed here on Thursday with all the developers. And yeah, there are other things, other pricing models that I'm not going to discuss here. But I would just like people to be maybe open to possibly different kind of pricing models in the future, because it's really hard to plan ahead if you're only paid once, but you need to keep improving and improving your products. Diminishing returns is the answer to why that one feature that you, or bug that you submitted 1 year ago still isn't in the final product. So every bug fix, every new feature costs us time and effort, but you don't necessarily get the return on investment back. So it's really hard to make everybody happy and make the perfect airplane. And I really wish we could have all the features, like we know all the things that might be missing in our products, and all the developers do. But simply, if you want to make sure that you can keep the business running and provide good service to your customers, you can't include all the features. So this chart shows us that initially when you start working on a project, you're right here, every unit of your input and work is going to give you productive gains. Then right about the time when you release, suddenly the more you work on that same product, the less you're going to get out of it. So I would like to just explain this is the reason why your one thing that you really, really miss might still not be there. We would really love to add it, but it's just not feasible. So game over number 3 is some businesses simply can't keep the profit going after they've released. So who can help? The answer is the community. The community can help, and this is the whole point of my presentation. So I have a little checklist. Please be patient. When developers work on something, it's going to take time. But they're doing their best, hopefully, to deliver the best product they can. Try to give useful feedback. If you say, sometimes it doesn't start VNAV. That isn't helpful feedback for anyone. We don't know what to do with that. So be sure to really think about, okay, what did I click on? What happened? Let's give the developer as much information as I can so that they can actually get it fixed. That really helps us. Stop spreading hate. I really see a lot of people just hating on other products in the community, and I don't see there is any point. If you don't like a product, simply move on. But definitely, you can get the EJets by Xcrafts. I hear that are pretty good. Get to know your developers. If there's a developer that you're interested in their products, maybe check their customer support, see how they talk to their customers, see if they're helpful, how they react, see how often they release updates. All these things will help you be sure that your investment is worthwhile. And if you're happy with their products, keep buying their products and support the work that they do for the community. and pay attention to the small details that the developers put in their work. So talking about details, there were 6 carrots hidden in this presentation. Has anybody found any carrots? No. You guys are not paying attention. So let's have a look where the carrots were. We got right there, one on the seat. By the way, the picture here depicts the cockpit of an E-jet, where I was explaining in our another newsletter how textures are created. So if you're interested in learning more about all of this, you can definitely go to xcrafts.com and subscribe to our another newsletter. There's one carrot in the croissant. There's one right there in the V. This one's really hard to find, I think, in the PFD. Right there is a carrot. And there's one behind Michael Scott. So, oh, there's one more. All right. Anyone seen this one? Probably not. So, thank you, guys. I hope that this will just show that we developers really want to deliver the best products we can. We're trying our best. Sometimes it doesn't work, but we're all in the same boat. If we all help each other, we can generally bring everybody up, the community can grow, and we can all be happy. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.